Government control of health care written by the insurance companies is so they can federally lower the standard. And they're now admitting this. So that's a way to kind of covertly, by stealth, start degrading the quality of care. We see major police departments all over the nation announcing they're not going to respond to major crimes like armed robbery, car theft, home invasions. Oakland's one of the more visible examples. But this is, I'm seeing these articles every day now where they're laying off half the sheriff's deputies, 60% of the police. Some towns getting rid of police altogether. So unfortunately, Dr. Roberts, things are starting to trend in the way that that you're saying that things would go.
Yes, that's right. That's why, you know, the fictional story has resonated with so many people, and it's gone all over the world. Earlier this morning, I was on a long Skype interview from Germany, and of course, the Germans are, or at least some of them, are hoping this happens. They want to be rid of us. They're tired of being our mercenaries and fighting for us in Afghanistan, and they're tired of being an American puppet state. So, yes, things are going this way. That's why there's truth in the fiction, and that's why it resonates with people, and that's why they're interested in the reality of it and not just in the storytelling part of it. So you're right. Things are happening. You're right. The medical reform, which creates new patients for the new customers for the private insurance industries, they're going to use as excuse to cut Medicare. But in the end, there just won't be anything provided to the people from the government because they're too busy stealing everything, and then whatever they can get, they'll need to keep themselves going. And that's why I think the organization will be local. And people won't trust anybody that's not one of them, not part of their clan.
His newest book is How the Economy Was Lost, the War of the Worlds. Paul Craig Roberts, available at Amazon.com. We have it posted up on screen for folks that want to read his latest book or get a copy of it. Did you see the big Bloomberg 15-page report about insurance companies swindling the widows of dead veterans, tricking them to steal their in some cases, millions of dollars of insurance money?
I'm aware of it. I haven't studied it, but it doesn't surprise me because, you know, I think the opening chapter in my book, if I remember correctly, is called The New Robber Barons. And that's what the capitalist corporations have been turned into. They're robber barons.
But it's so bold to, I mean, even Bloomberg says it's criminal, and they just steal their money and just take it, but they got the regulators to change the rules so they could do it, and the insurance companies, it says all major insurance companies are doing it, just said, we're allowed to, we're going to do it. I mean, they're so brazen.
Right. That's right. So maybe it's a higher than a 6. I gave it a 6. Maybe it's close to a 10.
Well, you know, we're going to break with the final 5 minutes, and I want to get into Iran with you and what you think about the acceleration towards war. But I know a lot of really wealthy people that I've run into or met at events, and I talked to one lady who's listed as one of the richest women in America. I'll just leave it at that. 4 years ago, she left the country and said it will not be here within 5 years. And she said it's derivatives. And this was before, you know, the 2008 stuff. And she said that all the other big money's leaving, and now there's been mainstream news articles about the rich basically all leaving. So it seems they know they've killed America. And I want to come back in 70 seconds, have Dr. Roberts briefly comment on that, and then on the Iran situation. Then we've got Bob Chapman coming up. Stay with us. Quickly, the true wealthy exiting the country, even the engineers of the collapse exiting, buying armored redoubts all over the world, and then getting into Iran. Please comment on this, sir.
Okay, Alex, keep in mind there are two kinds of rich people. They're the rich people who live off of fortunes that are not in the corporations or on Wall Street. They're different from the people who are building fortunes, who are the CEOs of corporations or the Wall Street hedge fund managers and investment bankers who are building the fortunes. They're the ones who are running things in the ground. The people who have the money are just living off of it. And they can see it. They don't have a stake in it, and they're getting out while they can. And so that makes sense. Now, Iran, I've been expecting them to attack Iran for some time. And if you look at everything they say and everything they do, that's what it points to. It doesn't point to anything else. And every time somebody resolves the situation for them, like Brazil and Turkey did recently, the United States government gets mad. So I think they want to have a war, and they're not quite sure how to go about it. The consequences, they got to have some excuse. They keep talking about the non-existent nukes, but they keep getting contradicted by the U.S. intelligence agencies and by the International Atomic Energy Agency, which is on the ground in Iran and reports no diversion of uranium. They don't know what the impact could be on Russia or China or how they'll see it. And so they want to do it, but they can't really see how exactly they're going to get away with it. So as soon as they can convince themselves that they can get away with it and that they have some way to justify it, some false flag event or just some happenstance, maybe just something happens that Iran doesn't mean to happen, or so they can blame Iran. Once they see a way, then they will probably make this attack. Unless, of course, enough of them in Washington start to realize that they're bankrupt and they have no way to carry on these wars, and that it's undermining their power. And if they were to come to that realization, they would back off. I don't know what the chance is of them coming to that realization. As you know, the neoconservatives are screaming every day, attack Iran, attack Iran. There's a new screed in the Weekly Standard now. The push from the military security complex to keep the war profits going, all of that's driving them. So it's hard to know how they will finagle it, what will happen that will let them unleash it. This leak, this WikiLeak of all the Afghan material, this may be undermining them in some way. So they'll have to make a judgment. They want to do it, but whether they can decide that they can get away with it, that remains to be seen.
Well, Ray McGovern and many others, including Ahmadinejad, are saying they believe it's in the next 3 months if the attack is going to be launched in this phase. The last big danger zone, it was late 2007. But the aftermath and the repercussions of this, I mean, have you ever in your research seen a more dangerous time in U.S. history than what we're entering right now?
No, and the danger comes from Washington. It's not from the outside world. The enemy is in Washington. The threat we face is our own government. Look, they're going to have a hard time, Alex, because Chinese credit rating.
You know what, Dr. Roberts? I want you to be able to finish. Come back and do 2 more minutes with us, because when our music plays, it cuts off your Skype audio. I want you to be able to put a bookend on this on the other side. Then Bob Chapman. We'll be right back. Yeah, 14 years ago, people thought that liner was a joke. We are in an occupied global corporate system. We need to take America back and restore the republic, or we'll be bankrupted like all the other third world slaves these crooks have sucked dry. We're going to finish up with Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, because I didn't want his point to be cut off during the break. But then he made a big announcement to me, and we can make the announcement here. He's going to be now working with TrendsResearch.com and Gerald Celente. Gerald's on a week from Monday for an hour and a half, by the way, with an extended interview. So I can't think of 2 better guys teaming up. TrendsResearch.com is the website. Dr. Roberts, tell us a little bit about that and then finish your point.
Well, I suppose I got myself into it when I stopped doing the column, because Celente said, hey, you don't have anything to do. Why don't you join up with us? And so I've agreed to do some writing for their Trends Journal. Now, the point I was making, and I'm very pleased because, Salenti is a guy who's not afraid. He speaks his mind, and he has a lot of important and valuable insights. So I'm delighted to have teamed up with such a personality. Now, the point I was making is, as I said earlier, the constraint on the United States government is its ability to finance itself, its financial position. And I explained reasons that's getting weak. And now what happened last week was the head of the major Chinese credit rating agency declared that the United States is insolvent and has the debt burdens of a bankrupt third world country. Now, when your largest creditor makes a public announcement that they have no faith in you, that is a constraint on your power, and that may be what blocks the attack on Iran, if anything does, to hear from your creditor that they see you as insolvent and bankrupt.
So they're trying to buy a war. They go to their creditor, the Communist Chinese, and they say you're bankrupt. I mean, is that along the same lines as 2 weeks ago, their head credit rating agency getting rid of the AAA rating for the United States and Europe?
I think that was an opening gun, yes. They downgraded it. See, they're asserting themselves because we think we're the superpower, but they're our creditors, so who really is the superpower?
Last point, and I'm going to let you go, sir, and we appreciate your time. The problem is, what, 40,000, 50,000, nobody knows, nukes, high-tech weapons that are in the control of the neocons and the crooks that run our government. So it sounds like they're just going to go ahead with whatever it takes. I mean, remember Cheney launching the Georgian attack on the Russian-held area. These people are nuts.
They're nuts. They can use that for nuclear blackmail to force countries that are not well armed to supply them with resources. And that's another way they could continue longer than I forecast, but they would still lose control over this country. And so at some point, the other countries would realize there's only one target in America, and that's Washington. And once they realize that, that's the end of Washington.
Dr. Roberts.
If you don't have to do one city to get rid of it, then it's an easy thing to do.
Wow. The criminals there on the Potomac, the District of Criminals. Dr. Paul Craig Roberts, thanks for your insights. We appreciate you coming on.
Pleased to be with you, Alex.
Great having him. All right, we'll talk to him again in the near future, God willing, if they don't start World War III in the next month, like Ray McGovern said, is a distinct possibility. He said more than a 50% chance by the middle of August that it's going to start, and most analysts say it is going to lead to World War III. The media is also saying Venezuela is giving weapons, which is asinine, it's the other way around, to Iran, when their weapon systems are much more high-tech than Venezuela. So they've got U.S. fleets and forces moving into Colombia around them.